Today we've got an interview for you guys that I am probably happiest about. It is a couple of guys who started on Wolf-PAC in Rhode Island and accomplished minor miracles, and they're in the studio today, and I'm super happy to have them here. We've got Josh Aces and Justin Royce with us. They're the two state leaders from Rhode Island, and they came in all the way from Rhode Island to here to LA to do this. And of course, as with everybody at Wolf-PAC, they have cool nicknames, Aces and Boy Wonder. So, Justin, even though you're super young, you actually got started first.
I did.
Yeah. So how did you find out about Wolf-PAC?
So, I mean, through TYT, obviously, but I signed up for Wolf-PAC right after the McCutcheons versus FEC Supreme Court ruling. I was angry. Just
give me a sense of how much you worked on it.
Yeah, sure. So when I started off, it was only me in Rhode Island. I had to find my way. I had to learn the political landscape. I was always into politics, but I really had to get to know our legislators a little bit, get to know the process. Again, I was just an ordinary citizen, just wanted to change our political system in this country. And so I started off, Mike called me, the organizing director, said, you know, you seem passionate, would you like to be the state leader? I was like, of course. I was working 2 jobs. I was still at my internship as well, so Wolf-PAC was hard to work on at times. And it was only myself, and to the point where folks would sign up and I would call them, and they would come to the conference calls, some wouldn't. They were sort of a little inconsistent, but it was to a point where I would beg my family members to join the conference calls to make it seem like we had it going in Rhode Island. But it was honestly just me until Josh Aces became the co-state director, and we just hit full steam at that moment. So
it's got lots of ups and downs, and you got to be aware of that. So these guys are heroes now because they won in Rhode Island, put the 5th state on the map to get a convention, to get an amendment to get money out of politics. That's what Wolf-PAC wants to do, right? But I've been there, Justin. I remember when I did one of my first radio shows ever up in Boston, and I had to get family and friends to call in as callers, pretend, oh, well, I see you've got a good radio show going here, right? So you got to build it one brick at a time. And you're 25 now. How old were you when you started?
Probably 23. I was a senior at Rhode Island College, just about to graduate. So there was a lot of moving pieces going on in my life. But like I said, you know, a few months after I signed up, I'm not gonna lie, Cenk, I was like, I'm about to put the towel in because there was so much going on in my life. But Mike was like, Justin, all you need is that one person. And Josh Aces was that one person. So I'm really grateful for him, obviously. And we just got the team together, and we said to ourselves, we want this to be our family, and it is our family.
Absolutely. You know, I tell my 6-year-old son, never give up, right? I know it's cliched, but it's true. There's a reason why, right? And I'm going to show him this interview one day. So then you come in, Josh, and what made you come in? What inspired you to get involved?
Well, I was actually working in corporate America for about a decade, management, and it wasn't the greatest experience. One of my previous jobs, actually the last one before I signed up for Wolf-PAC, there was a couple of things with pay. They decreased it a few times, and I remember one day the CEO actually was outside showing off his Corvette, and I was like, I'm done. And I was actually in Chicago at the time, so I moved home, and as soon as I had the internet on, I signed up for Wolf-PAC, and me and Justin had like a 5-hour conversation, and that was it.
So they had just cut your pay, and then the CEO goes and shows off his car.
Shows it off to all of his buddies in the parking lot.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there goes my paycheck.
Oh, yeah. So what do you guys do now?
So I actually just left corporate America, and I work for my dad. My dad owns a small business, construction company, about 15 employees. I'm the office manager, and I have to say I probably haven't been happier.
Right. And look, a lot of people don't get small business totally on our side.
Absolutely.
Because big business is rigging the rules. Small business doesn't have the same kind of money to buy off the politicians.
Right.
And what's the first thing big business wants to do? It wants to kill off its competition, which is small business.
Absolutely.
Right? So we've got to find a way, and I think we will, to rally almost all those small businesses to our side at some point. And Justin, what do you do for a living?
I work at the College Crusade of Rhode Island. We work with urban communities in the state of Rhode Island, specifically urban students, and we help them starting at the sixth grade. They sign up to be a Crusader, and then up until the day they graduate. So we're trying to curb the high school dropout crisis in the state of Rhode Island and see them persist through college and graduate.
That's fantastic.
Hence the name Boy Wonder.
Well, for a lot of reasons, right? So I think the guys looking at this at home have got to be thinking, well, okay, neither one of you worked in politics. You were 23,
Never.
You were young, right? So how in the hell did you know how to get a piece of legislation passed through the Senate and the House of Rhode Island?
I think the short answer to that was we didn't. We just really did it. We learned on the go.
Yes.
And I think the team we all had each other's back, and we were in this to learn. And we took those lessons, and we doubled up our efforts the second year. And me and Justin, we took what we like to call an 8-mile approach, and we knew what we were going to get into. So we strategically planned all over the summer to anticipate what we were going to get into that following year.
You know, also, I do want to say for any volunteers that want to get active, it's really important to know that Allison and Mike
Absolutely.
provide those resources for you, and they're with you every step of the way. So at first, you're going to be like, what is going on? What do I do? And it's really to find that one legislator who will introduce your resolution in the House and Senate. And there is. In our state, there were a couple. I can guarantee in every state in this country, there's at least one legislator who's willing to do just that.
So I want people at home, if you join up Wolf-PAC, wolf-pac.com, and you sign up for anything, volunteering, member, pay, whatever it is, right?
Takes a village.
Yeah. Number one, it all helps. Number two, somebody always contacts you now within
Right.
24 hours and starts to walk you through the process.
Yes.
So Allison Hartson and Mike Mineta, who they're referring to, are our national directors. So when the state gets pretty far, they then come in and actually walk you through all the, and it actually, they do it in the beginning, they do it in the middle, they do it at the end, and they were there with you guys when at the end when Rhode Island actually passed. So, but when you first got started though, were you nervous? Were you nervous making a call to a state legislator that you've never done before?
Absolutely. I remember calling my state representative for the first time, and I was literally shaking. I was, Mr. Malik, my name is Josh, and he was literally getting in the shower, getting ready to go to the State House. He's
That's
like,
a little awkward.
Yeah, he's like, it was pretty awkward. I'm like, what is going on? But he said, I got 5 minutes. I told him what we were trying to do, and he said, absolutely, come meet me. And I wound up meeting him the next day in his office.
I think a lot of people would be surprised by that. Honestly, when we first started, I was really surprised by that.
Me too.
Right.
Yeah, like,
absolutely.
Like he's going to meet with you?
Absolutely.
Your representative is going to represent you?
Changes your whole perspective on local government. It really does. We've had legislators come to our meetups, particularly Mike Marcello. He was awesome. I remember one day it was a snowstorm, and he was actually one of the first ones there, if not one of the first ones there, with his snow boots, and he actually signed up to be a volunteer. And
that's amazing, man.
And if it wasn't
Look at
for
what
him,
we started, right?
If it wasn't for him, he was very crucial because he really helped us a lot. And I think it helped with the nerves, having him sit in a chair like right now, and seeing him face to face, and seeing how passionate he is, just like we were. It just made it a lot more easier.
When Representative Marcello came to our in-person meeting, we had in-person meetings every month. And he came to our meeting, but the night before, I could not sleep. I was like, I need to sound polished. I need to know my stuff. And in reality, he's just an ordinary citizen. And at the local level, they're just ordinary people that have jobs just like us, that care about what we have to say. So
yeah, look, it's one of the most refreshing things I found out through Wolf-PAC. Because at the national level, we get so jaded because those politicians, all they do is take money, and it's just like a factory, right? But at the state level, it's a lot of times it's like the woman in Maine I always talk about who runs the cash register at the grocery store. She doesn't own it. She doesn't manage it. She just runs the cash register. They have public financing in Maine, right? A lot of times it's people like you guys who got excited about, hey, maybe we can make a difference, and they wound up getting elected. And in some of the bigger states, yeah, some of the politicians are a little bigger than that, right?
Of course.
But you'd be shocked at how many of them will meet with you, will definitely take your call, et cetera. So in fact, let's go to one of them now. Representative Art Handy was super helpful in Rhode Island. He's the one who introduced the free and fair elections resolution that we passed. So I just want to show you a little clip from him.
In the end, I really feel like this is an existential threat to our democracy here in the state. Here in the country, and it's something that I think we've been fortunate to maybe not see happen fundamentally yet in Rhode Island. We certainly have seen shadings of it, to be sure, this last cycle and maybe a little bit before that one, but I think it's something that's going to keep on coming, and it's going to get worse and worse.
So, Art Handy is a great guy. He was actually on one of our Wolf-PAC calls.
Recently, you interviewed him,
Yep. Again, even me, guys, and I've been, I started Wolf-PAC in 2011, so 5 years now, right? Yeah. Every time a representative gets on our calls or wants to volunteer or shows up and puts their walking boots on, literally in your case, right, and shows up, I'm like, really? Like, that's so neat.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, he was in the car with his kids.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And so how helpful were these, the first couple of legislators that came in shepherding the process or the bill through in getting it passed?
Oh, easy. I mean, they provide insight into sort of how a piece of legislation gets passed. It has to go on the committee, and then from there, there's a committee hearing, and then they have to vote on it, and then it goes through the necessary channels. But they were so key in helping us understand that, because the truth is, I really feel like this, Cenk, folks are just so busy surviving, working multiple jobs. It's hard to be civically engaged. Absolutely. And so when you finally do something, you just don't know the process until someone from the inside can show you.
Yeah, but again, one of our guys helps you in every step of the process,
right.
And then the legislators come in, and you wind up having allies, and they shepherd it along too, and so it's great to see that way. So now at the end, you wind up getting some votes, obviously. You got a House and the Senate. Well, I want to do the House first. Now, I want to set this video up this way, guys. You only need one person to second a bill.
Yep.
That's it. It doesn't have 9 out of 10 times, 98 out of 100 times. So one rep gets up, the other one seconds the bill, and we move forward. In the case of Wolf-PAC, and again, just if you guys are totally unfamiliar, we want to get money out of politics. We want to do election reform. It's a nonpartisan group. Right? So there's a lot of ways to do election reform. There's a lot of ways to get free and fair elections. So we want to have an amendment that does that. We think the best way to do that is to get a convention through the states. Right. You need 34 states. Rhode Island was the 5th state. That's why these guys are here. Right? So, but what's cool to see is the state legislators get excited. You only need one other person to second the bill. Now, look at what happened in the Rhode Island House instead.
Dealing with the Citizens United decision, it's a good bill, and I move passage.
Chairman Keeble moves passage. That is seconded by Chairman McNamara, Whip Edwards, Representative Casey, Representative Johnson, Representative Bleach-Juski, Representative Tabone, Representative Filippi, Representative Morton, Representative Diaz, Representative Lombardi, Representative Marcello, Representative Solomon, Representative Maldonado, Representative Fogarty, Representative Ackerman, Representative Amori, Chairman Handy, Representative Canario, Representative Tanzi.
Okay. That's the first time that I saw the video was today. For some reason, I had not seen that video. And I got to say, a lot of these videos are going to show you guys, I got a little emotional, and that was one of them. The minute they said, who seconds the bill, and like half the room stood up, I was like, God, that feels so good, right? So, look, I feel good sitting here in LA, but you guys were there.
Yeah.
How good did that feel when you start to see all the fruits of your labor, and you start to see winning, and you start to see enthusiasm from the legislators?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, we worked hard. We were there pretty much every time we could be there when they were there, just to speak with them and garner support. It was really a team effort for me, coming from a state director standpoint, and to see them all stand up one by one. It made me proud to know that my team was there, advocating this resolution, and to see them so supportive. It really gave me hope for democracy, to be honest with you.
Right. Yeah, no, it was just I second that. It was a surreal moment.
Absolutely.
We really worked so hard to get this done. It was not easy. I really want to stress that it was not easy, but once legislators understand our plan, it makes sense. It makes sense. And so it wasn't difficult for them to understand, but once they did, it's hard to not support what we're doing. And we were so persistent, so polite, so passionate. And state legislators love when you go see them and talk to them about issues. Yeah. And honestly, They don't get a lot of that. So when folks do go up to them, they love it. They love that to interact with constituents, people that care.
Yeah. I call that the Rhode Island strategy, polite and persistent,
Yes.
right? Every state does it a little bit different, but I think you guys nailed it with that, where it was super obvious how passionate you guys were about this through your persistence. But at the same time, super polite, not getting anybody's grill, just saying, hey, listen, this is something that's really important. You could tell that they sensed how important it was. And the thing that Justin's referring to there that's so important is about the strategy is, a lot of people have done bills where they're like, hey, this is how we feel.
Yes.
We wish that Congress would pass an amendment or call for an amendment. The states, of course, have to ratify at the end. 3/4 of the states have to ratify. This doesn't do that. This says, no, we are calling for a convention. So it's not up to Washington.
Right.
If 2/3 of the states call for a convention, that's action.
Yeah.
That's real. So when you tell a legislator, we can make this thing happen, you can make this happen, and you could be a new founding father that brings democracy back, people go, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's real, right? And House Speaker Nicholas Mattiello was super helpful there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was great. Now, that just because you got the House doesn't mean you're going to win. I know that we've had a lot of states where we won either the House or the Senate and not been able to finish in the same
Senate,
year, right? But you guys did wind up getting the Senate. So how did you tackle the Senate once you got the House?
Well, we actually went in the Friday, which was June 17th, the day we got it passed, and we actually had nothing scheduled, so we were really nervous. But the whole team was there. It was like 15 of us, and we were just running around the State House trying to get a vote. And again, the persistence and the passion. They saw that we were there even to the very last minute, and we got a vote.
Did it help that there were so many people there by the end where they could sense these are really our constituents?
Oh, absolutely.
And these are real guys. These are not professional protesters. These are not professional lobbyists. These are guys in my state who really want to get this done. Was that a big, big difference?
Absolutely. When you did the video, the call to action, I remember coming after work, and you have to walk up to the rotunda to get to the second floor. And I remember walking up, and there were people getting organized to go talk to legislators, and there was like 20 people. And I was just like, wow.
Right.
And that was pretty impressive. That made me want to go every day after work, be a leader, be there for them. And it was super important. We had a lot of volunteers step up in the last 2 weeks for canvassing as well. So that was very, very important.
So now those 20 guys actually went down to the State House, talked to those legislators, made the difference on that day of the vote, et cetera. There's more guys behind that. Those are just the people who could take the day to go down to the State House. If you can do that, that's wonderful, right? But every call makes a difference. Every day canvassing, et cetera, it all makes a difference. So now I want to go to the Senate video because this is another great one. So this is the final vote in the Senate, and again, it doesn't, usually it's very rote. You're just, okay, we're doing a vote, yada, yada. This time you get a sense that it's a little different. Let's watch.
Senator Pichardo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too join Senator Miller and all our colleagues, but especially to the advocates that have been here day in and day out. The Wolf-PAC is a movement that is going throughout the country, and I congratulate them for their efforts in getting involved, especially many of you who, for the first time, showed up, and now you're seeing how you're making a difference. So stay involved, and I hope everything.
So now that's one of the senators encouraging you guys. Not a lot of times in politics where the people who are getting lobbied by citizens without cash, right? Are like, hey, keep going, right? Usually they're like, oh, don't do that, yada, yada, right? So now the culmination of that vote.
36 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The item passes. Congratulations upstairs. Senate.
That was also one of my favorite moments because earlier they had admonished you guys not to applaud because that's not what we do in the Senate. Then they applauded you guys.
Yeah, our sponsor, Josh Miller, actually said, before we get going, I want to let you guys know upstairs we don't have any acclamations, no celebrations, and that was pretty awesome.
And then they celebrated. It's like out of a movie, guys.
It's really surreal.
It's amazing,
There's so much folks in the gallery, and that was just Wolf-PAC, Rhode Island in that gallery.
So now, this probably is my favorite. All these videos are great, but This is the moment after you guys just won. The Senate just voted, by the way, unanimous. Every Democrat, every Republican. Okay? So that's a hell of a thing, especially in today's America, to get everybody to agree. But again, 90% of the country agrees with us. Everybody thinks we got to get the money out of politics. It's corrupting the process. We've got to reform elections, right? And people have different suggestions on how to do that. Republicans have different suggestions. Democrats have different suggestions. Wonderful. Let's go to a convention. Let's get the best amendments possible on just campaign finance reform, on how to fix this system. So that's why you've got Democrats and Republicans voting together on this issue. Though probably the only issue in the country. That's why it's probably the only amendment that can get ratified, because you need 3/4 of the states to say yes. So now, though, it's done, and you guys are walking down the stairs, and we get this moment.
Speaking on behalf of
My respect for them just went up tremendously.
Well, you guys are obviously pretty emotional. Talk to me about that moment.
So you actually referenced it on the victory video. I had said, this was probably, besides maybe getting married, one of the best feelings I've ever had in my life.
Yes.
Being dedicated to this and pushing yourself and accomplishing something makes you feel pretty tremendous. And the unanimous vote was just, it would have been good if it was just a majority. But the fact that it was unanimous was just that much better. And you had mentioned in my quote that I had to step away because I was emotional. And you see there that I really was. I wanted to remain my composure as a leader. And I had to step away because, those hard nights of me and him staying up, organizing efforts at the State House, organizing canvassing, organizing phone calls. It was just a tremendous feeling. It was great. It's really hard to explain, to be honest with you.
Justin, it feels like that Kurt Russell moment.
I was going to say that too.
Yeah. So in Mad as Hell, the movie about young Turks, I always dreamed of that moment when they beat the Russians, when the Miracle on Ice, when the U.S. team beat the Russians. And I know it's goofy. It's about a movie. But, Kurt Russell, the coach, goes into the hallway and just like this.
He stole my line.
Yeah.
I told Mike last night, I'm like, I'm going to bring up the Kurt Russell moment to Cenk. He was like, he'll love that.
Yeah. And I don't know that I've gotten it yet. Maybe when we pass the amendment, right? When we finally get it in the Constitution. God, imagine how magical that would be, right? But Justin, you were there. How did that feel?
I was extremely emotional. The last 2 years has been really difficult. I put a lot on the line for this. Many of us put a lot on the line for this. We have folks who work, Greg, Big Swag, he's a father to newborn, but anytime we needed him at the State House, he would be there. And, I have a girlfriend, he has a wife, and it's hard to say, hey, do you mind if we just take a couple hours and we'll be at the State House to get this up and going. But that was a very surreal moment. We put our hearts and soul into this movement, and to see the fruit of our labor just really make it a reality. It was just a really wonderful moment. Watching that, I got goosebumps.
Yeah, and guys, this is it's doable, man. You can do it too.
Absolutely.
They're not, they're certainly not lobbyists, right? They're certainly not professionals at this. And now I've done this in 5 states, and I had the privilege of doing this kind of interview with the California leaders too. In California, biggest state in the union, and that was super touching to me too. And I know in the trenches, the states that have won, the states that have worked super hard and have not won yet, but they're on that road, right? And I've been there in the tough times and the good times, et cetera. And we didn't get to do it with Illinois and New Jersey, and Vermont, which I would love to do another time, because every one of those guys at all those states, they're all living legends. You know, Reverend Berry, who helped so much and is now a legislator himself in Vermont. Diesel's a legend in Chicago, but so many of them, and Walker in New Jersey, and all the nicknames always. You know, I swear, I'll be going through the day on a random Thursday, and I'll be like, Murray the Merciless. Right? He's from Illinois, right? And the Godfather, who's from Rhode Island, right? So I want to show you a couple of those other volunteers that were there, including Big Swag and some of the others. Here, let's watch that last video here.
So when I think of this group, I first think of Ralph Fiennes movies, Field of Dreams, the quote, "If you build it, they will come." And Josh and Bob and Justin built this movement and waited for us to fill it in. And Brian and me and John and everyone else came in and created not just a team, but a family. And, you know, what we did tonight matters. And to be part of something bigger than me that matters as much as this did, you can't beat this. This is democracy at its best, and we did it. And we should be so proud of ourselves. It's an amazing experience. We should all soak it in with beverages tonight.
You guys are very inspiring. You've all taught me a lot. I never thought I'd spend my Friday nights and Thursday nights and Wednesday nights and Tuesday nights in a building like this, but I want to do it for a long time. Wolf-PAC, TYT, really opened my eyes and inspired me, and groups like this are going to change the world.
I started out on the sidelines until I started watching TYT and got introduced to Wolf-PAC and decided, yeah, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to help change our democracy. And I met up with you guys, and instantly I knew, yeah, we're doing this. It's going to be a success, one way or another.
Money in politics and corruption in politics has been the biggest issue to me in this country for a long time. And you know, to have some place where I can go to fight that, you know, to make a difference, to truly make a difference to what I think is important, has been amazing. So, you know, I just want to thank, first of all, to Cenk. Thank Cenk for giving us this chance, this opportunity to make a difference in our democracy. And I want to thank Justin for, you know, his leadership, for Josh for your leadership and keeping us inspired. Big Swag, you know, one of the biggest inspirations of us all, you know, Bob the Godfather, and Brian for getting me involved, the mechanic. You know, he's the reason I'm here. I didn't know about this until we had a conversation about how much we needed to fix our democracy. And he said, you know what, there's a way you can do that. Wolf-PAC. And I had no idea. And I'm just so thankful and I'm so inspired to see everybody care about the issue that I care about, that I think is so important. And to be in that chamber and to hear the senators clap for us for the work that we've done is incredible. I mean, that's the best feeling.
Yeah, so there we had Big Swag, we had Bryant LeMay, Michael Lampley, Jonathan Hutton. Why is Jonathan the political huntsman?
So Jonathan is the political huntsman because his last name's Hutton, so it sort of rhymes. But he went to the State House, and he was reluctant. And the minute he went, he was just full bore, and he loved it. He did not realize that you can talk to legislators, and they actually listen to you. So we started calling him the huntsman because he was out there hunting down politicians.
Although I don't know that there's a better nickname than the mechanic.
You gave him that name, by the way. I don't even know if you know that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in one of the videos,
What?
you said Bryant LeMay. He's not a lobbyist. He's a mechanic. And then we were just Bryant the mechanic from thereafter.
Oh, is he literally a mechanic?
He is literally a mechanic. He's actually our youngest volunteer.
God, that's awesome. That's how democracy's supposed to work.
Absolutely.
Right? I'm so caught up in 1,000 things that I forgot that, right? But it's supposed to be mechanics, and we literally have farmers. We have a lot of military guys. We have engineers.
Teachers.
Teachers, etc. Allison, who's now the one of the national directors, was a teacher in Orange County in California. And I love the guys who never heard of TYT that joined Wolf-PAC. And Allison had never heard of TYT. She just researched online. She's like, oh, these guys have obviously the most logical solution.
Yep.
It's real action, and I see how it would get us an amendment, and I see how the amendment would get money out of politics, and that's how we'd get our democracy back. I love it! So that could be you, right? In this case, in Rhode Island, it was Justin and Josh and all those guys we just showed you who worked hard at it. And look, I don't want to tell you that it's all rainbows and flowers because, you guys worked really hard.
Absolutely.
You worked a lot of days, you worked a lot of weekends. So if you can volunteer and be a warrior like these guys, go for it. And we need you. Wolf-PAC.com. And whatever you sign up for, we'll reach out to you right away and we'll get you involved in your state in the process. If you're in one of the states that already won, that's okay. There's wolf attacks. Those are fun. Okay, so you can get involved in wolf attacks. If you don't have time, I get it. You got kids, you got 2 different jobs. People got to work hard. At least chip in $10 a month or whatever you can afford. Now I think we got a new thing, $27 a month.
Oh yeah.
After the Bernie Sanders phenomenon, right? So go do that. There's a section for that as well. Wolf-PAC.com. And look, it's not just about like what we get out of it, right? Whether it's Wolf-PAC, TYT, or even the country. Like, okay, it's also what you get out of it, right? That's the important part. So just let me end on that note. Tell me, like, what's your sense, guys? Josh, what did you get out of this process?
That, as a normal, regular, everyday guy, you can really make a difference. And I think sometimes you kind of become pessimistic with society because like Justin mentioned earlier in the interview, you got everything going on. You got kids, you got a job, you got to pay bills. It's hard to put that time aside to do something extra. But when you actually put that time aside and you see the fruits of your labor pay off, I really hope that we get thousands of volunteers from this interview, either where it's tomorrow, next week, or a month, because this is the most important movement in this country to fix money in politics. And I'm just grateful to be here. I'm grateful to have an opportunity to even sign up for this. If you didn't create Wolf-PAC, we wouldn't be here today, and we wouldn't be celebrating passing a state to get a convention. So absolutely, sign up, donate, whatever you can do. It takes a village.
Cenk, I like to say that the Wolf-PAC experience has done so much for Rhode Island because now, we passed this resolution, but the folks who participated in this are going to continue to be engaged in Rhode Island politics for the rest of their lives. It doesn't stop here, and that's what was so great. We got a taste of that. Now we're going to continue on doing the amazing work we're doing. So,
yeah, and look, I guess I feel good that people get something great out of this, and that's a pretty good reward in and of itself. But I don't want people to lose track of the ultimate goal, because we've got to win.
Right. Absolutely.
So we've got to get this in 34 states. We've got to get the convention, and then we got to ratify it in 38 states. And we're not going to rest until we get that amendment. But I want you to picture that day. I mean, look, they had that day in Rhode Island. Now imagine that day on a national scale when you all worked on it and you did it. You got an amendment in the Constitution that fixed the system and that got us back to where we're supposed to be, free and fair elections. Right. I guarantee you it'll be the best feeling you ever had.
Absolutely.
So let's all do it together. And Justin and Josh, for your role, thank you.
Let's help Cenk get his Kurt Russell moment.
28th Amendment.
Yes.
Let's go get it done. Thank you, guys.